Ladies and gentlemen, direct from the Universal Broadcasting Network, located at the historic Sunset Gower Studios in Hollywood, and locations across the country and beyond. This is SHOWBIZ Nation Live with Michael Roberts. Your weekly look behind the curtain featuring the latest news, reviews, interviews, and performances with the artists that shape the magnificent world of the performing arts. I'm your announcer, David Friend. And now, curtain up, put your hands together. Here is the host of SHOWBIZ Nation Live, Michael Roberts.
Well, welcome back to SHOWBIZ Chicago and SHOWBIZ Nation. I have a new friend with me, Justin Williams, who is no stranger to the Chicago theater land, but he has decided to go a bit south of the border, as they say. We're not building a wall between Indiana and Illinois, but Second Star Theater is debuting with The Last 5 Years, a little show written by our friend Jason Robert Brown. They had their opening night yesterday, and Justin Williams, who is also playing Jaime, who is also the artistic director. So if you want a part, this is the man you need to sleep with. Welcome, Justin. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Michael?
I'm doing fine. Soon to be on your casting couch, I'm sure. So, so
I love it.
Right. So before we get into the last 5 years, why did you feel there was a need for a new theater company in South Bend?
That's a good question. I grew up here, and I've been involved in, I think, almost every theater company in some capacity, whether it be doing a staged reading for them or one of the Christmas, things they do, or just the production in general. I've seen the ways that they kind of work, and the main thing I see is that the patronage of the theater is of the older genre.
Yes.
And that's kind of alarming, because what happens when they tell? Who's left? What have we been giving that younger generation to make them want to go? And I talked to a couple of buddies of mine, and they both jumped on to my idea, and we're going to focus mainly on the last 30 years of musical theater. Some of the, in the mid-'80s when it started to get a little edgy.
That's right.
And then up until, recently with, American Idiot and things like that, with dealing with real-life situations, and just good music, good stories.
So let me tell you, Justin, that this is why I love doing the show, because you and I have never talked, but boy, have you hit on one of my passions, and it's about, and I've had this argument, and I've gotten into some major debates with some of the players in Chicago that had subscription theaters. And you go there, and I'm going to throw it out there, it was like Drury Lane, the Marriott, and I'm talking maybe 10, 15 years ago, before there was a change of hands, but you would go to these shows, and how many frickin' productions of Oklahoma can you see?
Exactly.
And there's more canes than legs in the audience. And for me, because I grew up in New York, and I came to Chicago in the mid-'90s, but you've got to trust your audience. And if you have a subscription series, they're trusting you enough to give them new theater. So no matter if there's a fuck in the score, or and the perfect example I have to tell you is that in Drury Lane in Oak Brook, when they did Next to Normal, and it sold out every night, and it was the first really new and edgy show they did, if you really want to call it edgy, but for them it was. And they got more subscribers, Justin, off of that show, which they weren't going to do. And now they have a whole younger theater base to do it.
It's funny, how that works. And it's funny you mentioned Next to Normal. We'll jump ahead a little bit here. That's our season finale this year.
It's probably one of my all-time, it's in my top 5 of all-time favorite shows.
It's stunning.
It is.
I mean,
the last 5 minutes of that show is, I've seen people not recover from it. I've seen You know, I sang on Broadway for almost every of the 3 cast incarnations. And my friend Anthony Rapp was actually involved in it when it was doing the readings. That last 5
really?
minutes,
Electric,
yeah, that last 5 minutes of that show, Justin, is just, there's nothing like it. There's nothing.
Oh, no. It was my mom's first Broadway show.
Wow. Yeah.
And I went out to New York to go see some shows, and I took her to go see it. And that was the first thing she saw. And,
Right?
you know, she was like, are they all like this?
Yeah.
Did I miss something? What happened to Kat?
Right?
Where she went
Well,
into the heavy-side layer.
I know. Well, Kat's is back now if she wants to go see it.
Well, at risk that she might hear this, and that's the plan to surprise her with.
Oh, fantastic. Hey, it's an incredible production, the new one. Incredible.
Is it?
Yes. Yes.
Good. I've heard good things, so, and I'm one of those people that, you know, does like it.
Me too. Me too. Yeah.
Good.
Well, I love it. I saw Betty
All
Buckley
right.
do the original, and literally, she shook. When you hear that saying, they shook the seats. When she hit that D flat in memory, literally the seats at the Winter Garden shook. So it's been my mission to become best friends with Betty Buckley ever since, and I've kind of done it, but I still scare her sometimes.
Oh my gosh. It's so cool to hear you say my friend and Betty Buckley. And
I know.
my friend and Gates Robert Brown. I love it.
I'm going to send you, after the interview, I dug it up, actually just for you. I dug up the first time I ever met Jason. He was doing a master class in Chicago at Northwestern. And I didn't know him at that point. This has to be like 2006. So me and my co-host at the time did this interview him, and he's just the nicest, funniest guy. And during the interview, he goes, my biggest pet peeve is cell phones going out in the audience, and that's 10 years ago. There weren't a lot of cell phones in the audience. So, and it was one of mine too. Lo and behold, he's doing his master class at the end that he let me attend, and my cell phone goes off, and mine is kind of unmistakable because it played the theme from Dallas TV show.
Oh, no.
So yeah. So he goes, whose is it? Whose is it? And I said, oh, Lord. And he goes, oh, God. I can't yell at you. So anyway, see you and I are going to be best friends, Justin. So tell me about the last 5 years. Why did you pick that as your launching pad?
Well, actually, the first show that I wanted to do for Second Star Theater was Jonathan Larson's Tick, Tick, Boom.
Oh, my God. Love it.
Which I may get a lot of flack for what I'm about to say, but I think Tick, Tick, Boom is a superior piece to his Rent.
I do not disagree with that. I do not disagree with that. It's just, it's unfinished.
Rent has so many outlets. It got big, it happened right around his death, and,
Right.
This was in the back pocket, and he was working on it, and then it got found, and the actors kind of helped make it grow into something. But it's just powerful. So when we were auditioning the show, and as I found out when you're starting a theater company, nobody wants to audition. I don't get it. They want to see what you do first. But I kept saying, I can't let you see what I can do unless you come and audition.
Right.
So we went through a couple rounds of auditions for Tick, Tick, Boom, and on the last day, Alyssa Atkinson walked in, and she sang Come to Your Senses and knocked my socks off, and I was thinking, all right, great. You know what? My business director, Brett Mitchell Jr., and I will jump in and we'll play the males. And then I sat there and I was like, I don't want something to direct it, but I don't know, or I just wanted a little bit more control. And so we sat back and, talked for a little bit, and then I said, Alyssa, do you know anything from the last 5 years? And she was like, I think I could sing Still Hurting a little bit. It might be a little rough. And I was like, I have the sheet music right here. She goes, okay, I think we
Lo
should
and
be good then.
behold.
Always in my back pocket.
Right.
So she sang Still Hurting, and then I just looked at my business partner and a little earlier than I wanted it to.
Right.
But I'm a huge Jason Robert Brown fan. He's tattooed on my bicep.
Wow.
Not a picture of him, but notes to someone to fall back on.
Oh my God. So,
Don't say it's your favorite song.
it's my second favorite song. Stars in the Moon is my favorite, sung by Betty, and her version
That's
of it.
probably my second favorite,
Yeah.
or Flip Flops.
Yeah. So.
But yes, I love that song, and it's kind of just been my my motto. So when I was designing the tattoo, I was like, you know what? He's like, do you want actual notes? And I figured out how many we're going to have, and it's the last someone to fall back on. Those the actual notes from the score on there. So, you know, it just kind of felt right to trust the last 5 years and, you know, do what you do, like what you know best. So I feel confident that last night, you know, people got a good whiff
of your Jaime. They got a good whiff of your Jaime. Huh?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So I know with shows like the last 5 years, I mean, because there's only 2 people in it, each resurrection of it has its own take. What is your take on first the show, and what is your take on Jaime, and how does that differ from other productions?
Okay. Our take on the show, it changed every day. Being a new theater company, we're learning things, you know, that we can do, and then we start doing those things, and then we figure out that we can't. Or we try something that we thought we couldn't do that did work. But in the end, we took it down, and it's there. I have a couch, a table, and a chair. And we built 2 platforms that kind of look like a pier that get used as the pier and the stage and Kathy's doorsteps. We don't use projections like most productions have.
Right.
And my orchestra's on stage. And they are intended, and they're dressed in such a way to be taken as just everyday New Yorkers. So nobody's in dress blacks. Everybody looks like you would see them on the streets when you're walking down, down Broadway, and it's natural. That's what I wanted. I preached honesty from day one of this.
It's what it has to be.
I've seen a lot of productions. Yeah, exactly. I've seen a lot of productions that are like beautifully sung and beautifully designed,
But they don't get it.
and then it might not be that they don't get it. I never want to sell us actors short.
No.
Sometimes we just have that direction.
Let me do that. I can do that because I'm a critic. I can sell them short.
See, there you go. Oh, yes. No, Michael says that. I do not. But yeah, just that it's not as honest as I want it to be. And
Right.
I remind people all the time that this is a true story.
That's his true story.
I mean, it's slightly fictionalized.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's slightly
history.
fictionalized, but,
Yeah.
Jason Robert Brown was almost sued
That's right. That's right.
over the likeness of his ex-wife. So, like, there's a lot of truth behind it. And that leads directly into how I play Jaime. Is I make you like me. I have fun. I find that I play a lot of the humor that Jason Robert Brown has put in there, where it can be taken, not humorously. But
Give me an example of
I
that.
take that and make it. What was that?
Give me an example of that, Justin. What is in there
Oh, okay.
humorously that
miracle
most people
would
won't
happen.
find?
Gotcha. A Miracle Would Happen is the best example I have. That song, every time I've seen it, it decides how I feel about Jaime. I decide at that point in time, depending on how it's played, if he's an asshole, or if he's a good guy who just got into this too fast and is now like starting to realize all these things that you can't do when you're married.
Right.
And that's the route I took with it. I took it like he really genuinely does love Kathy. But he's got friends who are telling him, like, dude, you missed out on this, this, and this. And so he's kind of like just laughing about this while it's got that undertone of one for the rest of my life, and this one just walked by me, and I would like to go play with her, but no, you can't.
Yeah.
Come on, Jamie, you can't. So if you can escape that song, playing Jamie, and have the audience laughing and on your side, they're set up for the biggest punch in the gut. The last two songs of the show.
Correct. Yep. You're right.
Because, I mean, if I didn't believe in you, they see your struggle and they see you get fed up with her, and then you snap, and then you pull it back and you try to regain it, but it's so beautifully written. It is one of those things that in almost every relationship at some point in somebody's life, we have said something that we shouldn't have. And we think we can recover from it, but nothing's ever the same after that. And, I will not fail so you can be comfortable, Kathy, is that damaging blow.
That's right.
That is the moment.
That's it.
In my interpretation of Jamie, that moment where Jamie and Kathy are done. Jamie's a lost cause. He's written it off. He's never going to be able to get this back. And then you go right into nobody needs to know. And, yeah.
Yeah.
I already talked about that song.
Well, but the whole thing, Justin, is and the more I see different productions of it, and especially the movie, it really is. And I've never talked to Jason about it, and I'm not sure I want to because it might put too much weight on how I see shows. But the older I get, the more I see how damaged she is already, even going into it. She's so damaged.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
No, yes, you're absolutely correct, Michael. And I felt last night after the show, I was talking to a couple of patrons, and they were, kept telling me that I'm an asshole, da-da-da-da-da. And I said, just be careful, though. I said, there are always three sides to every story. And I don't condone cheating. I don't condone any of that. But it does take multiple people to get there. If your relationship's not clicking, I can see, after getting close to this show, how it's so easy just to float the other way. Especially when two people are on different paths in life, and one is successful and one is stuck in Ohio.
Right.
I mean, I get it. I don't necessarily approve of it or like to say condone it, but I can understand where it's coming from. So I really tried to look at, how responsible is Kathy?
For her own
Did she
life.
do everything?
That's right. And she doesn't. She
But,
doesn't.
yeah.
Jamie's success becomes a scapegoat for her miserableness.
Exactly. Because you hit it on the head. She's damaged when her story starts.
Correct. Yeah.
And we don't get to know what that is. And again, and if I didn't believe in you, things that I knew 4 years ago, he said that to her. So what are those things? So.
Wow.
It's a good point, Michael.
Well, thank you, and right back at you. So between the two of you during the rehearsal process, what were some of the more difficult scenes emotionally to get through, and why?
I think I won't speak for Alyssa, just because the show we put so much weight on making sure that Jamie and Kathy kind of related to us.
Correct, as it should be.
Because that was the only way to get the honesty out of it.
Sure.
So for me, if I didn't believe in you, tends to be the hardest song for me to get through every night that I've rehearsed it, and that's because I dated an actress for about 6-7 months, and it was the worst time of my life. And also when I swore that I would never date inside the business again, because everything was a competition with her. And, but only on her side. like, I would be supportive, and, you know, she'd go out and audition, and I send texts like, hey, break legs today, you know, tell me how it went. And I'm always in her corner. And then we auditioned for a show, and I got cast as one of the male leads, and she got a supporting or ensemble role, and I'm a piece of crap. And I got berated for it. I mean, day after day.
Wow, that's when it's
And
time
it
to
was
dump
just
her.
Yeah, it was just like, do you realize that we have different genitalia?
Right.
Like, I'm not going after your parts. I'm sorry. And I said, and I'm sorry that being a guy, sometimes it's slightly easier. You know? There's less of us. So, it just...
Yeah. Well, I see.
You know.
Yeah,
So, but anyway...
but you were, I do have to
believe
say,
you.
Justin, you were brilliant as Ava Perón. I don't know when that was in your life, but I remember seeing you as Evita. So you were going after some of the lady parts sometimes. You look gorgeous in that white dress.
I was confused for a second.
That's all right. Don't be.
But
Interesting. So,
yeah, so if I didn't believe in you, it's my hardest to not get lost in the lyric and feel sorry for myself.
so what was your take on the film version?
I watched it one time, and I went in. I'm not a big Anna Kendrick fan. Sorry to everybody who listens. And Anna Kendrick, if you hear this, I became a fan of you through this film.
There you go.
But when I watched it, I was expecting Jeremy Jordan to blow my socks off and then be slightly disappointed on the other end. And it flip-flopped.
I
Anna
agree.
Kendrick brought this honesty to Cassie that I hadn't seen. And I loved every second of her.
Boy, do I
on the other
agree
hand-
dead on with you. And I heard because I got a press copy of the soundtrack, you know, probably about 4 months before I got a screener of the film. And
Oh, wow.
and you could just hear it. You could hear her in that opening number. It was like, I've never heard it. And it was so subtle. You know,
Exactly. That's the thing.
it was so,
She
but
took
so
advantage of it being a
true.
movie.
I'm sorry?
And made it... I said she took advantage of the fact that it was a movie film. And that
Yes.
subtleties played so well.
Yeah.
And, yes. I became a huge fan of her after seeing that. Because I had so much more respect.
And I'll tell you,
and then-
Chelsea, I'll tell you what line it was. It was when she goes, Jaime decides it's his right to decide. It's, I don't know, it was her, the way she said it, it was just, I never got it. And it just set the tone. It just shows you, you know,
It's
what an
kind of
actress
amazing
can do. Yeah,
how, you know, we can hear that song and that show for so long.
yeah,
And, you know, no offense to anybody who played it before that we've seen,
right.
but sometimes it just takes somebody saying, you know what, I'm going to do it this way, not give in to how it's been done before.
Yeah.
And
Hey,
then again, maybe that song means something to her that we'll never know.
That's right. And so much of it, too, Justin, is the trust in the director and the director's vision. Because unless he can
Amen.
communicate that to his actors, you're fucked. Because
That's the best way I've ever heard that put.
you know, and especially in a film version, because you're at the mercy of the editing process.
Oh, yes.
You know.
Talking about editors the other day. I went to go see that Suicide Squad movie.
Oh God, don't even. Yeah.
I was like, oh wow,
Yeah.
they must have like 3 or 4 editors that work at Warner Brothers, and
I know.
they all decided to put their own take on it.
I know. Same with Batman versus Superman.
yeah.
I'm like, I got dizzy. I'm like, what am I watching?
Yes, no, I was not a big fan of that either.
I so long for Christopher Reeve just to break through that screen on the Cape. I was like, oh my God.
Oh, that
Yeah.
makes me sad. I wish
know.
that would have happened.
Me too. Me too. So let's project out 5 years. What do you want to see from Second Star Theater? What kind of impact do you want to have I know you want to bring in a younger generation to see theater, but what kind of impact socially, charitable wise, what kind of impact do you want to have on the South Bend community through theater?
So, our long-term goal, and it fits into the 5 or 10 years, is to become a small, self-sustaining equity house.
Wow, good for you. Good for
yeah.
you.
Yeah. We have this awesome mayor. I don't know if you know much about him. Mayor Pete Buttigieg, who it just is revitalizing South Bend itself. Because I was one of those people who was like, I've lived here for 20 years, I'm done. Bye.
Right.
And, he came in and really just saw what South Bend can become and what it was and wants to merge those. So we've kind of picked a really good time to start, I think, with him being, behind a lot of this support downtown. Excuse me.
Absolutely.
So, but we would like to, like I said, become an equity house and have our core leads be equity and offer to the community to come in and be supporting ensemble and learn and kind of use it as a tool. Because we have a lot of talent here in South Bend.
You sure
And
do.
we could,
You sure do.
yeah, we could not.
Because all you
do
guys always
equity
come
and
up
be
to
fine.
Chicago for work.
But we could not do equity and be fine. I just think that South Bend is deserving of something like that.
Yeah.
And it certainly could sustain it. It just takes the right approach to it. And like I said, having grown up in here, I can see why some of these places that could have turned into these haven't. And that's because of their artistic choices they make to keep doing Oklahoma,
Exactly.
The King and I. Like, they're great shows, don't get me wrong. We will do one classic every year to make sure we never forget where we came from at Second Star Theater. However, you just have to know when it's time to take a chance.
Sure. And you know what?
So,
I mean, shows like Evita, Cats, shows from the 80s are classics now.
exactly.
You know.
Our classic this year is Ain't Misbehavin'.
And I have to, so I just interviewed Andre DeShields, who was the original Wiz, but he was in the original cast of Ain't Misbehaving.
Yeah.
And we were talking about that show. In fact, I pulled an old clip from him in that show. And absolutely, and boy, did that show lay the groundwork. Because you think about it, before that, it was really, there was The Wiz before that, but for African American shows, there was Porgy and Bess in the Opera House. Then you had Ain't Misbehaving. It was groundbreaking, and that laid the work for Play On and all these others.
It's just such a beautiful show.
Oh,
the music.
It's stunning. It's stunning.
Everything about it. The book. It's fun, and it's lush music.
So talk about raising money to start up a new theater company for those that, because I have to, that's been one of my little pet peeves in Chicago, and that's why I so appreciate your take on it, because you can articulate what you want your theater company to be and your vision. So we get invitations now in Chicago. Literally, I could go to 4 shows a night because there's so many new theater companies that it's a couple people that say, "Oh, let's put on a show," without the process of like, "Oh, people need to get paid for their work and this and that." So, right? So I really think what you're doing is special because you have a vision. You know what you want to do. You have a long-term goal, and you have a bigger end game in mind.
You're right. Raising money for this venture at the beginning seemed to be an almost impossible mountain to climb. And I was out at my business partner's house. We were actually just having a couple beers sitting in the hot tub. And his dad came out. And we didn't know he was out there. And we were just talking about ways we can raise money and how long it's going to take and this and that. Because, I am I am an actor who went and did, some regional stuff and then came back home. I'm not wealthy. I was not born into wealth. So it wasn't like I could just go to mom and dad and say, hey, let me borrow some cash. I want to try this. So this was going to be just my buddy and I, like, finding ways to do this on our own and then getting extra jobs and paying. And his dad heard us talking about it, heard the passion, heard the vision, loved it. And he's like, so, you guys ever think about having a minority partner? We're like, I mean, kind of, but we don't want to sell any of the company. Because as soon as you start doing that, then you lose control.
Right. Especially in the theater company.
He was like, what was that?
Especially in the theater company. Because they all want to put their, yeah, I know.
I mean, so he goes, well, what if that minority partner was me? And he runs a couple different businesses, from house flipping to house painting and a couple other things. And we're like, are you serious? And he's like, well, why don't you boys get out and we'll go out dinner and we'll talk about it. So we went out there, talked about it, and he jumped on board. So, I mean, we still are raising money, but he helped give us that start to actually put a product out there that gives us the right to raise money. Because so many people go into this and they raise money without having a product to show.
Right. That's right.
And then they put on a product and they find out, like, okay, there was no set, so what did I give you $5,000 for?
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, well, I paid myself a salary of 12, and, it's like, no. The first year that we do this thing, it's a labor of love for us and mostly everybody involved. Because we have to build it. The goal, part of that 5-year and 10-year plan, is to be able to make us money off of it, to be able to focus on this solely and not have to rely on a full-time job. And slowly make this the full-time job.
Right.
So we sell ads in our programs. We have like a per show thing and a 3-show package and a 6-show package. And we hit the local businesses and corporations and do it that way. We hire corporate sponsors. Just find ways to make it easier on us financially. Next to normal, we're hoping to sponsor with either a local psychiatrist, psychologist, or a mental hospital here in town.
For next to normal?
Yep, and work with them.
That's brilliant.
Because
That's brilliant.
Yep, to raise awareness and, do all that. We're just being very cognizant of what each show's, heart is and how we can tie that into the community. Ain't Misbehaving. We're going to work with some of the community centers and sponsoring them.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing Sam Shepard's True West.
Oh my God.
In April. I have not figured out what we're going to do to reach the community, to pair with the community in that sense, as far as, partnering and sponsoring goes. And then in Christmas, we're doing Forever Plaid Tidings. I'm not a huge Christmas fan. Shoot me now. I know.
Me either.
You said you either?
No, me either. No. I could jump right past December into February. I'd be fine.
Michael, we will be friends.
I know, right? That's when I usually go to London.
I don't really want to. I don't want to do a Christmas show. And I love Plaid so much. I love that harmony. So I was like, let's do Plaid Christmas. And they're like, okay. So we're going to pair up with our local Valley Airs troupe.
That's sweet.
It's a barbershop chorus.
Awesome.
So we're pairing up with them in the community to bring more awareness of them and let people know who they are. It's just, there's so many different ways to raise money for this. You just have to have the mindset to not be afraid to look and to ask. A lot of times people go into it thinking it's going to be so easy.
Yeah, theater's never easy. Theater is never easy, nor should it be. Nor should it be. I mean, but Justin, the impact theater has. I mean, look at where it brought you and I. And the biggest thing, and I'm a true believer in this. Theater is a living, breathing thing. Each theater space and each show, every show, even a rehearsal, it brings something that is palpable to each experience. Now, I'm sure you can remember your first show that you ever saw that got you affected into theater. I can remember mine. And I've been down in Florida, helping my dad down here. And I'm about an hour away from Orlando where the shootings happened.
Oh, wow.
And boy, oh boy, I have to tell you, it was within 48 hours that everybody on Broadway got their act together and recorded that song. I just saw the most amazing concert down here of every big Broadway star ever. They came down with the Orlando Philharmonic, and they had Andrea McCardle, Norm Lewis. I mean, you name it. Seth Rudetsky hosted. And it was just... But they each told the story, and theater is about how lives are impacted. So your vision of Second Star, it just feeds into the importance of how theaters can not only change lives but save lives. And Next to Normal, I think, is the perfect example. So.
You never know who's going to walk through these doors and sit down in your seat.
That's right. That's right. And the least line that you might think, a throwaway line in a show, could save somebody else's life. It's all how they're interpreting their life through you.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's funny you say that. Last night I had two friends of mine come see the show. One just got engaged after 2 years of being divorced, and the other is 2 weeks out of her divorce.
Wow.
And I forgot about this. She texted me and said, I'm coming to see the show. And I was like, great, you're going to love it. I'm so excited you're here. I totally spaced on it. And once we got to the end and, she's reliving those things, and she happened to be right in front of where I am placed on stage for the Goodbye Kathy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I just happened to break through the light and see her face.
Oh, God.
Yeah, and it was, heartbreaking, because I know that this is reliving this for her, because it's a very similar situation. And I just forgot. And then I found her afterwards, and I said, I am so sorry. I am so sorry. I should have told you. This is really close to everything that's going on, and this probably might not have been a good thing. And she goes, no, it's exactly what I needed to see.
There you go. There you go.
She said I needed to see it to know that I didn't overreact, that I did everything I could. And I was like, okay, you're sure that you're fine? Because I am so sorry. But you just don't know what it's going to do to people. Don't ever tell them don't come see it because it deals with a certain subject that's sore in your life, because it might change the way they look at it.
And that's the message. That's the message right there. And don't be scared of it. And even if maybe if it's the opposite of what you've ever liked in musical theater or theater as a whole, you need to immerse yourself. If you like theater. I mean, if you don't like theater, don't go. I mean,
that's my biggest gripe now with Hamilton, is everybody who complains about it. They're so afraid of it because it's an ethnic cast portraying American. But it's like I told last night, every one of those historical figures was an immigrant
right.
to this country.
That's the whole point of the show.
So
That's the whole point of the show.
How can you be mad that ethnic people are playing immigrants? I mean, I don't. It baffles me.
Well, that's when they leave the theater with their Donald Trump sticker on the back of their car.
Yes, that is absolutely correct.
So
because I'm more than happy going and spending what little money I had to go see it in May and see that original cast, and I would trade nothing for it.
Was Jonathan Groff in it when you saw it?
No, I saw Rory O'Malley, right? He was
I love Rory. No, I love him though.
I do too. He was very, very good. So,
Yeah.
you know,
But
Jonathan Groff will step back into it at some point.
I gotta tell you though, and I love the music. I love the choreography in that show is just some of the best I've ever seen in my life, and it's so
Michael,
good. I
you
think
can
it
find
gets
an aspect.
overlooked so much between the lyrics and the music and all that. But boy, it's so the choreography. It's like Bob Fosse precise. I can't imagine Hamilton without that choreography.
No, it would be boring.
You know.
It really, I think it would. I think, like I said, you're a critic, so I challenge you to find something that doesn't work in that show. Because
I can't.
when I go see theater, I watch with a
I can't. I can't.
exactly. I go with a critical eye.
It's like My Fair Lady. It's in your perfect show.
Oh yes, yes. Thank you for saying that, because that is one of the classics. That you can do that whenever you want, and I'll be okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It is. It is. My Fair Ladies, Guys and Dolls, just in their construction. And I got to tell you, fan of the opera too. The way they're constructed, there's nothing.
Yeah.
You might not like the music or blah blah blah, but I'm just talking about the way the show is constructed. Those are the shows that are, and Jesus Christ Superstar actually too. They're perfectly constructed. You know. And going back to Hamilton and Lin-Manuel, I mean, he owes, and he says this, he owes everything to Andrew Lloyd Webber, because Webber and Rice were the first ones to ever have their lead be the protagonist. You know, with Judas and Superstar, and that was the impetus to have Burr be, the Burr be the narrator in Hamilton was Superstar.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
So.
But man, sorry. Let's go back to talking about performances in certain ways that lines are read. Leslie Odom Jr.
Oh.
I knew he was going to win the Tony before I ever saw him, just because I could hear that change in his voice in the room where it happened on the recording, where he finally snaps and he's decided that it's done. I'm going to do whatever it takes to beat Hamilton. And I kept telling people, I was like, right here, this is it. This is what wins Tonys. And then I saw it, and then I was like, okay, if he doesn't win Best Actor, I got a little upset when Rob McClure didn't win Best Actor for Chaplin, because I adored that show.
I do too.
I saw it 37 times.
Wow.
I mean, I loved that show.
Wow.
Yeah, yes. And everybody's like, there's so many flaws with it. And I was like, I don't care. I love Charlie Chaplin. I bought into Rob McClure's honesty that he brought to The Little Tramp. Everybody was so good in that show. The sets, I thought, were wonderful. I mean, it was all black and white, and there was very little color in it. And the spotlight had this flicker effect that made it look like an old movie. It was just brilliant. But seeing Leslie Odom, if he didn't, then how do they pick this?
Right.
Because there was nobody else on Broadway, and I saw everything nominated that week, but nobody moved me, and nobody made me more interested and invested for almost 3 hours than him. So I just wanted to talk about that.
I agree with you. And boy, the pre-sale in Chicago for the Chicago production is just, it's so fun. I don't know if you've been up north in the past couple weeks, but there's a big sign at the Lyric Opera saying, "We do not sell Hamilton tickets. We are an opera house."
That is hilarious. No, I was up there last week to see Barbara, and
Oh, I hate you.
but I didn't get to drive that. No, she was phenomenal.
Yeah. Don't talk to
74
me.
years old, and holy cow.
Yeah. Don't talk to me. Okay, I've got the interview. But actually, her.
I won't.
Yeah. Where did you sit? Where were you?
Well, you want me to tell you? Because I'll tell you where we were
Yes,
supposed
best
to
friend
sit.
Justin. Yes, best friend. Where were you?
Okay. Well, our original tickets were in like the 300s, way up in the corner, slightly off to the back of the stage. And then when we got scanned in, we were upgraded. So we were like the stage, and we were on the stage left side of the stage, front row.
I'm living vicariously through
I was
you.
like 50 feet from Barbara.
Wow. Now did so my best friend saw her in LA when she launched the concert a couple weeks ago, and Jamie Foxx was her special guest star. Who was there? Who was in Chicago? Was he there?
All right. For me, it was the most perfect thing that could have ever happened. This is the first time I've seen Barbara, and I happened to be probably the weirdest 25-year-old you ever meet. I adore and idolize Anthony Newley.
Me too.
So
Me too.
she sang "What Kind of Fool Am I" with Anthony Newley.
Okay,
Or, I'm sorry,
goosebumps.
who can I turn to?
Who
With
can
Anthony
I
Newley.
turn to? Nobody sees me.
Yeah. And I bawled like a baby. Because, we were like, who's going to be there? Who's going to be here? It's going to be Alec Baldwin, because I really wanted to hear that duet.
Yeah.
And then she starts singing that "Who Can I Turn To?" And I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll just hear her sing this song. And then she turned around and looked at the screen, and Anthony Newley popped up.
Yeah.
And then I was done. So, I know a lot of people that I knew that went to that show were disappointed with that choice, because they wanted,
Oh, no.
a living celebrity.
That's-
But I would not trade anything for what that was.
So, how are you and I not best friends before? So Anthony Newley,
I don't.
I
Oh,
idolize every show. Roy the Grease Paint, Stop the World. So I was honored enough to talk to Petula Clark about right after Anthony Newley passed away, and Petula Clark and Anthony Newley were best friends, and she gave me this whole history lesson on Anthony Newley, and it was just one of the most remarkable, because I didn't know he wrote Goldfinger. I mean,
oh,
yeah, I mean, he wrote the theme from Goldfinger. He wrote so many of these songs that, and just about his alcoholism, and he had this great love affair
yeah.
with Sammy Davis Jr., because the whole joke was that he would write the song and, perform it, then Sammy would get a hold of it and make it a top 10 hit.
yeah.
So, yeah, I mean,
That's true. I mean, well, and that's part of my reason and adoration for the Chaplin musicals, because Newley tried it
yes, he did.
first,
He did.
and it just didn't. It was part of that big investment scandal back in the day.
So
It kind of sunk it, but
my favorite Anthony Newley song from a show is The Joker.
oh yes, when I do a cabaret, I've got this nice little arrangement of the Joker that melds right into "What Kind of Fool Am I." Oh,
Okay.
those two songs.
I'm
together.
moving to South Bend just so you and I can be best friends. That's all I'm saying. I'm done. I'm done. This is just too creepy. So
It is ironic how many things we agree on.
absolutely, and just to hear, I'm so, and you're a few decades younger than me. Just to hear that you have shared the same vision that I've been trying to get through, it's so humbling for me. I'm gonna cry, but it's just, I mean, you're giving light to like everything that I've been trying to do, and it's just a privilege to talk to you.
Oh, thank you. No, it's a privilege to talk to you too, because like I said, you just reassure me. There are so many moments this past year that we've been doing this that, I've encountered people who are like, "You're a kid. You don't know anything. Da 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 da. You can't do this." And I'm stubborn and bullheaded, and I plow through anyway. So when I get to talk to people like you who sit there and say that, it just reassures me that my heart and my brain do know what they're doing sometimes,
And they do.
that I'm on the right track.
Hey, listen, if I had a $10 million theater company, I would trust you running it. I'm not kidding. So,
Well, thank you.
well, thank you. Thank you. I can't wait to meet you in person. And how do we get tickets for the last 5 years? Because you're only up this weekend.
Yes. Well, right now you have to like us on Facebook.
Okay.
And there'll be a link on our Facebook page to an Eventbrite page to buy tickets. We're currently constructing a website, but due to Tech Week and everything, we just kind of put it away. So it didn't get open when we wanted it to. But we live and learn. So that's the easiest way to get tickets. If not, you can come and get them at the door. There's no difference in price. They're $15 for adults, $12 for students, seniors, and veterans.
Awesomeness. Awesome. In the last 5 years, this is the premier show for Second Star Theater. Congratulations, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
The curtain is now coming down on another episode of Showbiz Nation Live with Michael Roberts. Make sure to visit showbiznationlive.com and ubnradio.com for information on upcoming shows and to listen to past episodes. Thank you for tuning in, and please support your local theaters and arts organizations. I'm your announcer, David Friend. See you at a show.